Hey everyone, and welcome back to Unveiling Beauty. So excited to be here for part 2 of our bridal segment. Ammon, are you there with us?
I'm here. I'm super excited. We already did bridal makeup, but we couldn't go without completing the whole look. And I'm really excited because the guests today are going to be speaking to not only different types of bridal hair and some tips, but also different texture types too.
Amazing. So we have 2 of our pro team members, Pekela Riley and Danielle Keasling, joining us today. But we're going to kick it off with Pekela. So why don't we take a look at a video from Pekela?
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Pekela!
Hey!
How are you?
Look at that hair, girl. I love it.
Well, you know.
It looks beautiful. I'm so jealous. You could change up your hair so easily.
Nick, I feel like you could wear that look. I'm like,
I'm on my way.
Is it a keeper?
I'm on my way.
Right.
Is she a keeper?
She's a keeper. For sure, she's a keeper.
We're living for it. So, Pekela, we are here today to talk about bridal hair. And I have always wondered if you thought that there was a particular style that would work for a bride to go from her wedding into like the honeymoon. Is there a style that actually works that like goes all the way from day to night?
Yes, absolutely. First of all, I'm so excited because it is bridal season, and I work with many brides over the years, and so that is oftentimes the question, like, what am I going to do with my hair for the wedding that works through the honeymoons? And we think about protective styles, but we don't always place them in the realm of bridal hair. The key to using a protective style for a bridal look that transitions to something that she could wear on her honeymoon is making sure that that shape is really bold. So it would be sort of the opposite of how the very small micro braids that I had, but something really bold and chunky. So I have a visual representation of that I think will come up where we see the really large and the accentuated braid, something that that gives you visual impact. And it makes a great surface for you to add accessories, little pearl detail to it. But the key to having a style that transitions from bridal to honeymoon is making sure those braids are nice and large and chunky, and it gives visual impact. So certainly something that is beautiful, but definitely wearable and will stay intact through the honeymoon.
That's awesome. One thing that I was thinking about as you were talking, when I first started doing bridal hair, I used to struggle with the balance and the proportion. And somebody taught me that it's no different than an ice sculpture and how you chip away the pieces you don't want to create the shape that you do want. And it was like a light bulb for me, because then it was all about seeing the perimeter line, not necessarily what was happening in the interior so much as where my brain was focused on so much of the interior, but really it's the exterior silhouette that is really what a bride wants to see. What's your approach to creating balance and proportion in hair?
Oh gosh, we're certainly aligned in that it really is about on her wedding day, and for brides, it really is about that silhouette. And that balance is, you're gonna take that emphasis to the height or to the length or the rear volume. You very rarely want to encroach on the face with that shape.
As she encroaches on the face.
You very rarely want to encroach on the face like I did. because it's really her day. It's all about her beauty. And typically you are factoring into whether she will wear a headpiece or a veil. And so you really want to work that shape, that balancing of that shape and the volume aspect or something away from her face. And so you're really dealing with that silhouette. And, you know, you want to make sure that, you know, one side certainly doesn't stick out more than the other, that when you see that at the height, at the crown of her head, that it's not asymmetric, but she has symmetry. And just leaving, you know, it away from her face to allow for little intricate details, a little edge art, a little pearl, something blingy, and not too blingy, because it's all about her. So that's where that balance comes into play. You want to think about height, and you want to think about length or rear volume.
I mean, just the description of the way you were describing that hairstyle, I'm like, I feel like you just painted a picture of this beautiful work of art hairstyle. That's
I
like,
actually
I'm like,
could see it.
I know, right? I'm like, I don't know anybody. I already know what this bride looks like based on what you just told us. And I'm like, I'm living for it.
Because I can see it. And so sometimes I'm like, I can see it. So hope I'm able to articulate the vision.
You sure are. Yeah, you
Thank
sure
you.
are.
I got to say one thing that totally was another light bulb just now was when you said something blingy, but not too blingy because it's all about her, right? And that was like, duh, like, yeah, because some people get so caught up in all the accessories that they lose her. I think back to like in the 80s, right? When all these big headdresses, and I remember my cousin had like this big thing that came over her face and neck, and like, it was just like, everything was so over the top. And now it's about the simplistic little accent of bling that just accompanies her. And that just like hit home for me.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, not in addition to being a stylist and in art, but particularly with brides, half of the artistry in which we create is knowing what to leave alone. Knowing what to leave. And so, you know, simplicity is key. Simplicity, I think, is the refinement of art. When you it doesn't have to be over explained.
Yeah, I love that the way that both of you just said that. Nick said that it's like, let yourself shine through. Don't overdo it with all the things so that you're hiding behind it because you want to show your beautiful self. And we always say when we're teaching as hairdressers that sometimes the most simple and simple things can be the most statement making and can be the most timeless. And that's what you want with those pictures, right? Is something that's going to compliment you for every angle, but that's going to live timelessly as you go through. Now, speaking of timeless, I know that a lot of brides spend a lot of time preparing for what they want to look like, what they want to do, the whole thing. But I want to know your personal process in terms of how much time do you spend getting ready for that bridal look?
So the planning process with my brides actually began about at least a minimum of 4 months out, because we want to begin with the questionnaire, that consultation. You certainly want to build in time for weeks of maybe 1 or 2 trial styles, because she's going to order a headpiece. She may change her mind about that headpiece, and then we have those appointments leading up to that day. So to have a happy bride on that day, you really want to go through those variables prior to the day of. And so it allows you to prepare and make the wedding day really, really seamless by having the extensions prepared. You have your accessories laid out. You have everything ready to go. You've already color matched because you've had that time with her. And so she feels really confident about the process, and you see that. So on wedding day, it really can take, you know, anywhere from an hour or 2 if you've done the type of planning that you've been allocated to do within those 4 months. So it's really important that if you have that opportunity to get with the bride at least 3 to 4 months out to begin that planning, you can have really a happy bride in 1 or 2 hours on wedding day.
That makes a lot of sense. I love the way that you just said that, because they'll also respect the amount of planning that you put into it, because they've been living it for those 4 months too. So if you're talking to them and interacting with them and making those plans and setting it ahead, it's not about just a trial, right? And especially as I can imagine, like you were talking to us about, you know, these wedding looks that then can go into their honeymoon look. They don't have time to go to the salon and have their hair redone. So what is the plan for how we're going to get that hair done, looking great, planned ahead, and then maybe just add a few pieces so that it's excellent for the actual day of the wedding. Perfect.
Definitely want to work out those kinks before the day of pressure. You know, you don't want to be pressured. She's going to take on your energy. So set up those consultations, set up those trial stylings, play with those headpieces so that you're really prepared on bridal day.
I am literally sitting here and I'm just about to bust out laughing because as you guys are talking, I'm thinking about like, wow, God really knew what he was doing when he made me a man, because I would be the worst bride. I'm just thinking like, that's the process I go through on a daily basis with my own hair. I
want the comments. I want the comments right now to just come in. Come in right now, and if you agree with the statement that Nick Stenson just said about him being the worst bride,
I would be the worst bride.
Give us a heart, give us a like, whatever you need to do to make a comment, because I couldn't agree with that comment anymore.
There is not a crew in the world that I would do that to.
For your like 4 months of planning.
I'm on 2 hours in one day. That's all. I'm like, wait, it takes me 3 times of doing my hair in one day before I actually am like, all right, I guess I'll go with it.
We're jealous. We're totally jealous. Like, you know, women, we are style shifters. You know, you don't know if she's gonna show up with the curly fro or this. So you need to work that out before the wedding day.
Options, lots of options.
My husband didn't know who was going to show up.
I love that. Awesome. Yeah, I love that. You know what? I think that is the perfect spot for us to end this segment, Pekela. Such a great amount of knowledge and great laughter. I mean, it's so nice right now to talk about things like weddings, you know, when we've all been going through so much, but to be able to talk about that special moment and to be able to talk about that coming and that reopening in the world again. And obviously, I'm engaged. I've had to postpone my wedding, but it makes my heart just sing just to talk about it. So thank you for taking the time to talk through it with our guests today and give them some good insights on how to prepare and really set them up for some really cool bridal hair.
Thank you, my amazing bosses and amazing friends.
Good to see you.
We love you. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, from one amazing hairdresser to another, but completely different approach. I'm so excited to bring on Danielle Keasling. So let's take a look at Danielle.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hey Danielle, how are you?
How are you?
Danielle, hey.
Good
you look so good.
I'm getting my Carolina tan on, guys.
You sure are.
I'm jealous.
I know, it looks great.
How have you been?
I've been good. I've been busy. Been crazy.
As always.
Actually, right. We keep ourselves busy, but everything's good. You know, everything's on the up and up, and I feel like the world is starting to get into a better place, and
I agree.
Happy to be here.
Awesome. Well, I agree. So obviously we're in wedding season, right? And hopefully people could start having weddings again very, very soon.
Yes.
But the one question I wanted to ask you is really around, obviously a bride's going to come in and she's going to have a ton of different ideas and she's going to show you a bunch of different pictures of some inspiration that she's found. What do you do with that as a hairstylist? Like, what do you do with that inspiration and what's kind of next steps from there?
So they always come in with their Pinterest board. I think we all agree.
Or books.
And you know, I've done a good breakdown of styles, and I call it hair mapping. And so what I really try to do is look at the style and try to figure out where in my 2 hair maps that make sense to me as a stylist on sectioning where that hairstyle falls. And I have basically 2 hair maps that are kind of my go-tos, and pretty much every style falls into that. And that alleviates a lot of me just starting to curl hair and not knowing where I'm going with it. It really gives me a sectioning plan and a way to break down the style and execute it really quickly. So I think that, you know, being able to look at those pictures and really look beyond the style into like the real sectioning or the subsectioning of the hair is going to make that incredibly easy for you. And then also taking into consideration their face shape, their like the way that they wear their hair, what looks best on them, because a lot of the times brides bring in styles, especially shown from the front or the side, and their face shape is completely different. And I know every hairstylist out there has done this, where you copy the picture to the T and you look at them and you're like, it doesn't really look as good as a picture. And that usually ends up because their face shape isn't suited for that style. So you really have to educate them on what would look best with their particular face shape.
Well said.
So yeah, well said, well said. And I think it speaks volumes, and then giving an empowering stylist to make sure that they are, you know, the experts, subject matter experts, and that they take into account all the inspiration, but have that communication and dialogue about like, love this part. What do you love about this photo? How do we make it so that it's yours? Danielle, you are particularly known, a well-rounded stylist, so I don't like to pigeonhole at all, but you're very well known with your bohemian, like loose styles. And I think a lot of stylists today, they kind of go into autopilot when it comes to prepping for bridal hair, and they go right for the curling iron, right?
Yep.
They set the hair, and then they start to kind of build the style from there. So what are some alternative ways of getting texture without using the curling iron?
I try not to even get heat involved unless I have to seal the cuticle or build in volume. But
and why is
now
that?
with today's products, because you don't need to, and it's a waste of time, to be honest with you. And especially if you're in doing weddings happen, the majority of weddings happen from April to July, right? Where the summer months are going to be the hottest months with the most humidity. So we all know that, yes, there's products out there that help with humidity, but if you don't have to put heat to alter the hair, why would you even chance breaking down the bond of the hair for the humidity to react with it? It just doesn't make any sense. So if you can create texture within the hair without using heat, I think that you're going to do a couple of things. You're going to speed up your style. You're going to not have to worry about humidity, and you're going to be able to execute things very quickly and, you know, methodically. And, you know, one of the things that I, you know, did to show here is I took this mannequin, and this is something that I tell people all the time to do. This is actually synthetic hair. So it's a long-haired wig on a styrofoam head, and you can practice a lot of upstyling without heat tools. Sorry, my cat keeps jumping in my lap. You can practice a lot of upstyling without heat tools with synthetic wigs to give you a really good foundation and practice, and like figure out how to break this down really quickly. So to give you an example though, I did a braid right here, and then I did a twist right here. And I love to show this to people that do formal styles, because when you pull apart a braid, this is just a normal 3-strand braid, but if you pull this apart, you're going to get volume width-wise, but you're not going to get roundness. You're going to get flatness. Braids are going to make everything more condensed and flat, where the cylinder or the rope twists are going to give you more of a cylinder shape all around. So again, when you map out the hair and you break down the sectioning, then you have to figure out if you need to flatten and densify the hair if they have too much hair, or if you need to expand and give volume to the hair. That's where you would use a twist versus a braid. So I'm all about breaking down the hair. You can see that the sectioning is very simple. I do this a lot, where I just take a cylinder section and I ponytail it right at the occipital bone, and then I braid all of my other areas And then I'm basically like twisting and expanding to create texture. So for me, it's the easiest way to do an entire wedding party very quickly.
Well, and that's what I was just going to say. You know, there's a lot of people who get overwhelmed when they're like, okay, well, I have to do the bride and 12 bridesmaids, and how do I do this really efficiently? And how do you factor time? Like, how much time do you say you're going to need for the bride, the maid of honor, the bridesmaids? How do you kind of divide that up?
So I always give the bride an hour only because she's got to feel special and that's her day. And like, you want to make sure that within that hour though, it doesn't take me an hour to do a bride. It takes me literally 30 minutes. It's just, I'm giving myself an hour for her to feel good and then a little bit of buffer time. And then I can knock out the bridesmaids in 20 to 30 minutes at the very, very most with techniques like this. And, you know, the one thing that is interesting across the board for weddings is that, you know, if you purchase a wedding cake and it's a wedding cake and not a graduation cake, it's 3 times the amount. If you buy a white dress and it's not a red dress, it's 10 times the amount. If you hire a photographer for your wedding day, you're paying $10,000+ with the same time that if you did a lifestyle shoot for $3,000. Somewhere in the mix, hairstylists kind of got left out. So
I was gonna say,
I'm like,
totally
what happened?
right.
Like, what straw did we pull? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Unless your whole business is like luxury wedding, traveling all over the world and doing clients, you're unfortunately across the entire board of our price brackets within our industry. Like, we didn't get, for whatever reason, like we pulled the short stick. So the way you make money on weddings is to be super fast and efficient. And there's so many ways to do that, and they shouldn't be stressful. It should actually be a better moneymaker if you can like utilize these skills and just knock them out. And to be honest with you, none of the wedding party wants to sit around and get their hair done all day. Like, I think we've internalized that as like we have to like give them this whole day of like beauty, but they would much rather drink champagne and take pictures of themselves and hang out. They're like not wanting to still. So
yeah. And Danielle, I know, you know, you and I have done wedding parties together, and it's always funny because it starts with a couple, and then all of a sudden it's like the wedding party just starts to grow, and people just start to come in, and you're like, this wasn't part of the arrangement, but like, okay, how am I going to say no when you just keep doing? And so it's so important to have like those tips and those tricks, like you're saying, where you can really execute very quickly. But then again, to your point, don't shortchange yourself, right? So like communicate up front. If they want to jump in on the bandwagon and have part of the fun and look all pretty and then get to the drinking, it doesn't mean that it's any cheaper just because you were able to do it more efficiently, right?
Correct.
The part of it that I want to make sure that is really, because this is the important part, right, is especially for a bride, but for anybody that's in that bridal party, eventually most of the weddings turn from a ceremony into a celebration of sorts that has dances, etc. So how do you make sure, or what are any tricks that you could offer to make sure that that bride's hair stays throughout the night, even though it looks just whimsical and like effortless?
Elastics. This is my go-to for wedding styling. Like, I did years and years of bridal styling. I live in Hilton Head Island. It's a huge resort community with bobby pins and hairpins. And once I realized that, you know, sectioning matters, if I can get rid of hot tools, great, and use braids, twists, and like the simplest twist even by just like literally taking the hair, and like you don't even have to be fancy. If you don't know how to braid, you can literally like just twist the hair towards the center of the head. So like if you're just twisting the hair towards the center of the head and then pulling it out, you're going to create really beautiful texture that you don't have to like worry about a curling iron or anything like that. So you don't have to braid, you don't have to do anything fancy. You can literally just wrap the hair in a twisting motion with your finger and pull it out. Secure the end with an elastic, And the minute you secure that end with an elastic, you're still gonna have to take bobby pins to like pin this in. But as long as these elastics are secure, the ends, forget it. You're not gonna have to worry about them, like the twist coming out, anything falling, because those elastics are the security that you need. So now I can create really nice texture. I can let go of that. The texture is gonna stay in there. And then I'm gonna use the bobby pins to place it and pull it. So elastics for me are like my go-to product. I would rather show up to any wedding with a bag of elastics and a comb than probably any tool that I've ever found had or any pin that I've used.
I think a trick that you just did that I think maybe people take for granted and don't realize is even though you're doing that easy twist, you've started to pull it apart. I know sometimes like we see amazing bridal parties and they do these elaborate updos, but the hair is stiff and it's really tight. And I think a more modern approach right now is exactly what you're doing. And it's that pulling it apart and making it a little bit more drapey and a little bit more softer and loose. And I think that's something to think about. Even when you're doing braids, loosen them up, you know?
Yeah. So, you know, this is the thing, like all these loose bridal, like boho styles and the things that are trending right now, like you said, Nick, they're not so finished, but if we start messy, we're going to end messier. Yeah. So we have to like build from the inside out and, you know, start clean and be able to like know where we're going to be able to deconstruct it. And that's why sectioning is important. And then product choice is important. I am a huge advocate. Like I actually don't use hairspray when I'm styling hair until the very end. And the reason I don't use hairspray is because the more hairspray you use and the more you're manipulating the hair and that hairspray starts to react to humidity and it starts living on the outside of the hair and it creates almost like spider webby a feel. And it doesn't matter how clean your sectioning is, the more hairspray you use, the more crosshairs you get, you start getting like this film and it looks super messy by the end of the style. So you have to build your support in with your styling. So what I do a lot of the times is I have a couple go-to products. I use this texture builder from Matrix. It's a dry spray. It's not a hair spray. It's a dry texture spray. I use this at the root to give me volume and support and stability. I will also use it in the mid lengths. I don't use it on the ends so much because I feel like it will dry out the ends and it makes them a little like hard to seal and look polished. I might use it like in a situation where I have ends hanging out and I want a little bit of expansion in the hair. I might use it for that reason, but more importantly, it's like building the foundation. So I usually take a bride that comes in or a bridesmaid, and if they have like silky hair and it's dry, which I always recommend they come in with dry hair, I'll take like a volume building mousse or my Biolage mousse and like put it on their hair really quick while it's dry and hit it with a hair dryer and a round brush really fast. It shouldn't take any more than 3 minutes. That just gives your fabric from silk to like cotton. So like you have to like have something to start with. And then I'll take my texture builder, spray it at the root area, give myself a little bit more support. And then as I either twist or braid or curl, depending on the style, of course, the outcome, I use this height riser a lot. And so the height riser is a powder. And I love this again because it goes into the hair and it doesn't sit out on the outside of the hair. And a lot of people use powders and they'll like shake it like this. And that's a lot of product. What you really should do is you should just actually like spray it, like almost like just squeeze it and like hold it to the hair like that and let it naturally lightly go into the hair. And that gives you a little bit of grip and it gives you more foundation as you're building without the overlay of spray. And then once I get to the point where I'm satisfied with the style, I usually set it with like something like the Total Results High Amplify hairspray that's going to hold it, but it's one good spray at the end to set it and that's it. So that's kind of my routine.
You said it
really good.
Yeah, you said it. I think the only thing I love, Danielle, like I'm relating all the products that you're recommending. I'm like, oh yeah, that's the one that I love to use. We have a similar product with Londa that performs a similar way. And a little trick actually that I would love to share just on the part of the powder that you were showing is oftentimes people find when they try to squeeze it, if it's running out of product, if they give it just a little shake and then squeeze it, then the product will come out more efficiently as you're running out of product. Just a little tip for you guys, because I use the same trick as you do.
I like it. Yeah, good.
Sorry, now my dogs are barking. So I got my cats jumping in my lap. My dogs are barking.
You both have cats and dogs running around your houses right now.
I can relate.
I mean, a horse might bust through the door in a second. Come on.
I'm a wee bit jealous, I'll be honest.
Yeah,
I'm a wee bit jealous. Well, Danielle, always good to see you. Always great to see your amazing tips. And you are an amazing stylist. You do beautiful work. We will flash tons of your work up here so everybody can see. And I know they know your work already. So thanks for spending time with us. And I hope to get to see you in person really, really soon. It's been too long.
Good to see you, hon. Take care.
All right.
So, Ammon, very different artists, amazing skills, lots of good knowledge. I hope you learned a thing or two.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, between the laughs, but you know what I really love is, and I want to continue to do this with Unveiling Beauty, is really to talk about different topics, but always make sure that we're talking about, like, I love that Pekela was able to give texture bridal hair tips, and then Danielle came in so that we could really make sure that everybody has an understanding of, you know, whether it's, you know, whatever your hair type is, whether it's makeup or hair, that we're making sure that we're being really inclusive and thinking about everybody that's watching and every guest that could be sitting in the chair. So great tips from both great artists, not surprised, and just loved having those laughs today. And I do have another special announcement that I would like to say. Officially, we have now got an Unveiling Beauty YouTube channel. So if you have wanted to watch any of the previous episodes, you can now go to Unveiling Beauty on YouTube, and you can go back and watch all of our laughs, all of our tutorials, all our serious conversations, and just kind of relive all those moments with us back on YouTube.
I love it. That's awesome. It's great to see everything that's going to be captured in one place for everybody to use as a resource. And don't forget, if there's something that you want to see that we haven't done yet, please put it in the comments. We're looking at everyone's comments. We want to know everything that's on your mind. And don't forget to share it out on your pages so all your friends can see it too. In the meantime, we'll see you next time on Unveiling Beauty. Thanks for being with us. Have a great night, everyone.
Bye, guys.